Greetings everybody, coming to you from my 2023 Nissan Versa S manual. So I have owned this car for about a year and a couple months. I haven't had it as my primary driver, got a little over 7,000 miles on it. Just had the first service done not too long ago, a few hundred miles ago, that my dealership gives you 2 free oil changes and tire rotations when you buy a car from them. So I figured I would just have them do that, even though normally I do that kind of stuff myself. But I wanted to start by commenting on some other YouTuber I saw that did a video. It was titled something to the effect of the 10 worst cars you can buy today. And I kind of watched that. I was a little bit interested. And it amazes me how somebody with 300,000 subscribers can literally have no idea what they're talking about and still be extremely popular. It became very obvious watching this video, not just on what he said about the Versa, which I'll get to in a minute, but what he said on some of the other cars. Very obvious that he never even sat in one, much less drove one. So these people just decide, I'm going to decide I don't like a car even though I've never seen one in person. So that kind of irritated me, especially as a Versa owner who has experienced the great, the good, and the questionable with this car, which I'll get to in a bit. I mean, some of the stuff he was saying was just downright wrong. He said, the car doesn't have any power. And it's got actually quite a bit of power for what it is. You have to consider it was the cheapest car you could buy at the time. I paid 16 and change brand new for this car in 2023. And it's got 122 horsepower and variable valve timing. And I'm just still in kind of a lower RPM range. It makes most of its power at higher RPMs, but I mean, this car moves pretty good. I was able to get an 0-60 time using my race box of 9 point something. And yeah, it's not a race car, but it's plenty adequate for today's traffic, merging on the highway. Just don't be afraid to rev it. For those of you who don't like revving an engine, this probably isn't the car for you. And I did do a completely separate video on high RPM driving if you are interested. But let's just see. Once this car goes by, I'm going to just do a quick acceleration run. We'll let them get a little bit ahead. I'm still out in the middle of nowhere. This is kind of a weird intersection because you have to stop here, but the other way coming that way doesn't have to stop. But let's just do a quick light acceleration. I mean, it happily revs, accelerates well. I think I hit 60 there. I wasn't looking at the phone or the speedometer. I was looking at the road. But and it's super fun to drive. I mean, how can anybody say this is the worst car you can buy? It's ridiculous. Just nonsense. This, in fact, I've owned a lot of cars, and I'm a very big car enthusiast. I like cars on all ends of the spectrum. You can see some of them on my YouTube channel, cars that I've owned, cars that I've test driven, just various types of cars across just all different levels. I love them all. I mean, I'm just a car nut, but I'd have to say the Versa is is, if not one of my top 5 favorites of all time, definitely one of my top 10 favorites of all time. It's comfortable, even on a long trip. I've actually owned 4 of these, and I've had them on like 8-hour trips. They're very comfortable, no driver fatigue whatsoever. They get better fuel economy than advertised. I mean, overall, I'm averaging 37 miles per gallon according to that, and that's for like the past year. Even if that's a little bit inaccurate, and say it's only 35, that's still the highway rating for this car on the window sticker. So yeah, that the person with 300,000 subscribers that said this is the worst car you can buy is absolutely wrong. Now, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. The 2020 and 2021 models had push to start, and for 2022 and up, they switched it to, I don't know if you can see that, where you just put in a regular key, and which I think adds to the charm, more of an old school thing. But the engineers made a big miss when they switched to that. There's a programming error in these cars. As long as you're aware of it and you know what's going on, it's not as much of a problem. And I have been advocating with NHTSA, and I've gotten a lot of people who watch my videos to file complaints with NHTSA about this. But the problem is, if you stall the car or don't hold the key on long enough to start it, it puts the car into limp mode. And I don't know the exact solution to reset it. I think a couple pull the key out, restart it a couple times should clear it up. It throws a code. I've talked more about that in some of my other videos, but if you get to the point where you never stall it and you always hold the key on long enough to start it, you'll never know it has that problem. But you do need to be aware that exists. 2 months ago, NHTSA opened up an investigation, and my understanding from their website is it usually takes them about 4 months to conclude an investigation, and I'm pretty confident that a recall is going to be coming to address that in the 2022 and up verses. I've had people commenting on my videos that they got new 2024s and that they still have the problem, so they haven't really changed the programming since then. You know, so that's something to note. If you don't know what's happening, it can catch you off guard, and it can create a dangerous situation. So I'm raising awareness to that, and I have been fighting to get that fixed. I've actually written 4 letters to NHTSA to get their attention, and I finally did. And thanks to all of you who have filed complaints about it. And for those of you who have never seen any of my Versa videos, I don't say that should stop you from buying one. The rest of the car is just so good. Just be aware. Other than that, I've had 0 issues with it in over a year. It's been perfect, and I am highly confident that this car will last a long time and be very reliable. 150, 200, 300,000 miles. I don't think it's going to have very many issues. I've talked about a couple quirks in some of my other videos, like, you know, just random stuff. Like one of them is when they are brand new, everyone I've had has done this, it will grind into 3rd gear one time and then never do it again. I had that happen on all of them, including this one time, and it never does it again. And I've had comments from other people saying theirs did the same thing. It's the weirdest thing ever. Doesn't make any sense why something like that would happen, but It did, and it's been fine ever since. And you know, there may be some hood seal issues, which sometimes let water into the engine compartment. Sometimes it can get in there and freeze on top of the transmission shifter, and make it a little hard to shift until it warms up. I've had that happen on one of them. That hasn't happened on all of them, but that was kind of a unique weather situation where there was some freezing rain. I did a video about that if you wanna see what I've explored on that as well. I mean, no car is going to be completely perfect. They're all going to have little quirks, and yeah, including this one. But I mean, for the price and everything, this is just one amazing value. These things come with a lot of features you would not expect at this price point. I mean, it wasn't long ago that cars at or above this price point didn't even come with cruise control, and it's standard on this car. This one also has, in addition to the rear camera, which is I think mandated on all cars now, it has rear radar sensors. So you actually hear a beeping when you're getting close to something, and it has the rear what do they call it, where it'll stop you if you're getting ready to hit something. Like I was backing up in my driveway and backing up close to one of my other cars, and it stopped me like a couple inches away from the car. So I mean, that's all pretty effective stuff. It's got a one touch up and down driver's window, and all the rest are power. Now, when they did switch to the key fob, or to the manual key, they did do away with keyless entry, so you actually physically have to stick the key in the door to unlock it. But you do have a power locks button to where you can lock it when you're getting out of the car, and it'll unlock all four doors. In the stereo, it's only a 4-speaker stereo, but it's actually surprisingly good. I mean, it has decent bass, good sound quality. Very, very surprised with that. It also comes standard with Siri, eyes free. So that's a feature that if you have an Apple phone and you connect it through the Bluetooth, and then you push and hold this button right there for a few seconds. It's like 4 seconds, I think. It will activate Siri, and you can talk to your phone and tell it to call somebody or read your texts or something like that. Super cool feature. It does not have Apple CarPlay, not on the S trim, which is specifically what I'm talking about here, but you don't really need it. I mean, you can actually pull up the navigation on your phone, and it will talk through your speakers through the Bluetooth streaming, and you know that can generally be good enough if you want to use navigation. One thing that some people complain about, you can witness this now, is because it just has 5 speeds, it does rev a little higher on the highway. It's not intrusive, it's not buzzy. You do hear the engine, but it just sounds pleasant in the background. It's just a nice, pleasant driving experience. It's not bouncy like a lot of other small cars I've had have been. It's a very smooth ride. Handling is reasonable. Steering feel is actually quite good. It can be a little on the light side when you're going slow, but once you get up to speed, it's very nicely weighted, actually surprisingly so. And that's one of the things that makes it fun to drive, is the steering feel is very good. I can't say enough good things about this car. Taking everything into consideration, it is one heck of a value. And still a year later now, it's basically worth what I paid for it. Carvana, or one of the car places, maybe it was CarMax, offered me just about what I paid for it. Now that's not counting the tax, but they offered me, I think, $16,700 or something like that for this car, and I paid $16,900 a year ago. Now, I would never buy a car from a place like that. They're the place to sell your car to, because they pay a lot, but they also charge a lot for the cars. But still, and then even other normal places are still offering $15,000, $16,000 for it, something like that. So really holds its value, pretty much unlike anything out there. You can buy this car and practically drive it for free due to the low depreciation, low insurance costs, low fuel cost. It requires 87 octane fuel, and I can get 40 miles per gallon on the highway pretty easily. The air conditioner works well, no issues like I've had in some Hondas, where if you come to a stop, like at a red light, the air conditioner doesn't produce any more cold air until you start moving, and that doesn't happen in this car. It always works well, even when you're just idling. The heater works very well, and it doesn't take too long for it to warm up. And it just gives a good sense of driver confidence. You don't feel like you're in a tin can. Now, yeah, you can tell you're in a small car, but it is reasonably stable and secure on the highway at higher speeds. And it is not as wind-blown as you might think. Now, I'm used to the old 60s VW Beetles that when a little gust of wind would come along, it would blow you all the way into the next lane. I've never had anything even remotely like that happen with this car. People ask about that. You can feel the wind, but when the wind's high enough, you're going to feel it in any car. I don't care what it is. I've even had an S-Class Mercedes-Benz be wind-blown when it's gusting 50 miles an hour. But, again, nothing that ever felt dangerous. I always felt in control of the car. And, it all felt good. It's decent in the rain. I think a lot of that's going to depend on the tires. The factory tires are perfectly fine in the rain. Is it absolutely as stable as a German car? No, but again, nothing ever felt dangerous or scary or whatever. Even in heavy rain on the highway, it still feels fine. It feels safe. So, for the money, I would definitely absolutely recommend one of these to anybody. You're gonna be getting a new car with a new car warranty, and so, just so many reasons to get one of these. Just as, as long as you're aware of the pros and cons. With having owned 4 of these over probably a period of, I don't know, 2.5 years or something like that, you get to know all the little nuances about the car and all the little quirks and whatever. And so, yeah, in this video, I think I have shared pretty much everything I have ever experienced with the Versa. So this is probably by far my most detailed and comprehensive video that I've done on these cars. But yeah, if I've left anything out or you have any questions, let me know. And interestingly enough, I've had several people that, even though I always say the pros and cons about these cars, I've had several people comment that they have purchased a Versa based on watching my videos. So I think that's pretty cool that I've helped influence some people, and hopefully they're happy with their car. As long as they know about the stalling thing, which if they've watched all my videos, they will. And when I say stalling thing, I mean if you stall the car with letting the clutch out too soon. I don't mean the car stalls on its own. I've never had anything like that. And yeah, just a couple other random things. Like it has, they all have a slightly erratic idle. That's normal. The engine's a little noisy. That's also normal. I think that's because it has a timing chain. I actually just recently learned that timing chain engines are noisier than timing belt engines. But I say, who cares? I mean, you never have to worry about changing a timing chain. And I do think this is a pretty well proven engine. I don't know how long exactly this engine has been around, but I have seen some 2020 Versas out there with like pushing 150,000 miles, and they still run great. So I think the engine is long-term reliable, and it is not direct injection. It is the old-fashioned fuel injection, so that tends to add to longevity. Plus, I think that's also better on emissions, because you're not going to have the particulate emissions that you do with direct injection cars. If you go and look at any modern direct injection car today that has been driven a little bit, you look inside the tailpipe, you're gonna see soot that looks like an old diesel engine. So the modern direct injection engines all are soot spewers, a la old diesels. Not this one. This one doesn't have any issues like that because of the old school fuel injection. And I'm actually kind of surprised that they haven't required diesel or gas particulate filters on the direct injection cars. The only thing even remotely, I'm not going to say complicated, but I'm going to call it interesting on the engine of this car, is that it has 2 fuel injectors per cylinder, which I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's like when this car hits like, I want to say it's 5,400 RPMs, there's like an extra burst of power. It's kind of similar to Honda's VTEC, but not as dramatic, but you can definitely hear a changeover. And maybe that's when the second set of injectors kicks in. So I do think if that is the case, it's pretty important to get it up into those high RPMs once in a while, so you can keep those injectors happy. But yeah, I've not had any other things. I keep bringing up Honda. I've had issues with modern Honda manual transmissions, every single one of them, from repetitive gear grinds to locking me out of gear. I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me on this, but any Honda 6-speed manual transmission made in the past 20 years is junk. And I've owned, like, I owned like an 07, maybe it was an 08, no, 07 SI, a 2016 Sport, 2019 LX. I want to say there was one other in there somewhere. Now, I did have a 2012 LX with the 5-speed, and that one was flawless. But every Honda 6-speed I've ever had has had transmission issues that persist. And ultimately, that's why I got rid of all of them. But yeah, on the Versa, like I said, one grind when the car's new, and then perfect ever since then. So, well, I think that's about everything I could possibly say about this car. So if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Hopefully you got some useful information out of it. Have a great day.